Hello, everybody. Okay, we are live. How is everyone doing today? You may notice that, there's only one of us. Jake is not here this week. He is off enjoying the sun of Sardinia with some work. So, you're stuck with just me. But still, it's not going to stop the content. We're still going to go through some stuff and we'll see how things go. But I will give it the usual 5-10 minutes of just having a little chat first before we get into the actual subject of who is Adar. First of all, I hope everyone can hear okay. Everyone all looks fine. Someone say hi. There we go. Comments coming now. What a wonderful day. Okay. Already having comments saying Maeglin, Adar is Tom Bombadil, Adar is Radagast. Another one, Adar is Eol. Well, that's one that we may get onto very shortly. Oh, of course, the other one is the original character. We will go through all of these and have a little chit chat about what may go for those ideas, what may go against them. We will kind of get to them as we go. So let's have a look at this one. Our number one subscriber says, I think he's an original character meant to represent the vestigial link between elves and orcs within the context of the show. He'll likely get killed by owls who show sympathy to him as he did orcs. That's a very good idea. Could well be the case, but we will get more onto that in a little bit. Well, I've just realized my name thing isn't up today. Where has that gone? Not that you need to know who we are. I will admit, this is it feels weird doing this on my own. I hope it comes across okay. Hello to Morgoth. Okay, we're starting to get a few more people in now. Why not just say hi in the chat just to show me that you're there and you're listening? Once I know enough people are here, we'll start getting on to the main part of it. It is quite interesting how they're going with the show at the moment, though, isn't it? Are people enjoying it so far? Are people thinking that it's at all lived up to their expectations, or is everyone a bit disappointed in what they've seen? Oh, we have Quetzal from the East Coast. I have no idea what time it would be for you. It's 2:30 in the afternoon for me, but then you're behind me in time, so it must be early morning. Hi from Lord of the House of Stormcodes. Hello there. Saying that you like it. It's good. I'm glad people can enjoy it. It may not be what we expected, may not be lore accurate, but if you can at least enjoy the time you spend watching it, I guess that's something. In fact, Morgoth would give it 7.6 out of 10. That feels very precise, 7.6. I'm curious, why the 0.6? In fact, why that score in general? Definitely agree with this one, though. I love the dwarves. The dwarves and the Khazad-dûm storyline, for me, has definitely been the best one so far. I think the relationship between the characters of Elrond, Disa, and Durin are definitely the most enjoyable. And I kind of just want to see more. I kind of get a bit sad when they cut away from it and go to something else, really. Oh, it's 9:30 a.m. for you. What, 5 hours? Only 5 hours difference. Okay. So we've had last two 8.2 out of 10, which means whatever's averaged out to your 7.6. It means, to me, that makes me think that you've really thought about it, and it's a well thought out score, not just a random number out of the air. Hello there, the infamous Kiki. Good morning from America. The last episode, 5 out of 10. Ooh, does that mean, is that ranking it lower than the first three then, or is that above? Is it getting better or worse? Because that might be an important question, actually. You finding the show is improving with more episodes or getting worse with more episodes? Because I kind of find that a lot of it is hard to judge yet without without any payoffs, as I've said before. But yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes. This is fair from Paul. The only reason I keep watching is because it is based on Tolkien's works. Moments that entertain, but mostly disappointment for me. That is sad. After they spent so much money on this show and there was so much build-up, we would hope for more than disappointment, really, wouldn't we? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, I thought the last episode was edited rashly and weirdly, a lot of plot teleporting. Yeah, there seems to be a bit of kind of jumping around at the moment. It feels like they haven't really settled into their groove yet. It feels like they're still trying to figure it out. It'd be one of those things. If they had more time to maybe mess with episodes after the first few have come out, they might change a few things. I think we'll see some big changes in later seasons, to be fair. I think they're going to take, or at least I hope, they're going to take a lot of feedback from season one and realize where they've got to change some things. Because yeah, it's struggling at times. I mean, there are very much bits I am enjoying. There are definitely aspects of the show that I do like. There are just some that are a bit yeah, we'll go with disappointing. Disappointing. Oh, let's go for this one from Dylan. I really like the series so far, but it is taking quite a long time to get the different plot points going. Wish they would have released all the episodes at once if they want to keep the pace this slow. Yeah, it is it's an interesting idea really of would it have been better if they had just gone, here's season one in one go, and you could just binge it either everyone in one night, or you can take your time with it. Because there is something with it that I need to know where these payoffs are coming from to understand a lot of the stuff they're doing. And I've said it before, and I will say it again, it's the setup doesn't seem the best, but if they do want to pull that rug from under our feet and get to something great and have a moment that really shocks us all and makes everything make sense of what they've done, then it might work. But if they don't, if it's shoddily written, then yeah, we're back to disappointment again, then, are we? This is an interesting thought. Can't they just get Peter Jackson to be involved? And I can understand why. Peter Jackson did make the greatest film trilogy of all times. However, we also have to remember he did also make the Hobbit trilogy, which was, albeit had its moments, also had its very bad moments. So I feel like Peter Jackson basically peaked with The Lord of the Rings. And if he was to come back, like he did with The Hobbit, it's one of those things they say you shouldn't go back. If you've read a great thing somewhere, you've left, you just shouldn't really go back afterwards because it never works out the same way. Things don't come together in the same way that they did for that one time that made everything so good. So I feel like even if Peter Jackson did come back to the Rings of Power or come back to Middle Earth with the Rings of Power, I don't necessarily think that means that it would be the masterpiece that the Lord of the Rings was. There's so many other things involved now to when he made that means it's not as simple as just he's there, it's great. It could well be just the same thing because there are a lot of people above who are probably controlling things above the showrunners and kind of telling them what to do. And the showrunners are potentially just middlemen. But we don't know that for sure. It's just one of those things. Like, I love Peter Jackson. Like, he's one of those people that, when you get asked the question that if you could sit down and have a chat with anyone on this world, who would you pick? He's one of my top ones. But I'd also be scared that, again, like The Hobbit, he wouldn't quite live up to what I maybe built up his ability to. Hey, we've had a new member from Toby. Thank you for joining the Brohirrim. Every member is amazing. And for those of you who don't know, any patron or member that we do ever get on this channel goes towards a budget for a short film project that we're working on, have been since before COVID. COVID kind of affected everything, but hopefully we're getting back on track with it now. And we are actually hoping to shoot it next summer. We've got some location scouts and stuff coming up soon. We put up a teaser of one of the helmets for one of the main characters on our Patreon recently. Things are starting to tick along now, and hopefully it'll come into shape. So yeah, every member, every patron, thank you very much for helping us out. Kiki says, The Hobbit was good, fight me. It had its moments. I'm just saying that some gravity-defyingly bad ones. Oop. Yeah, and that is definitely true as well. Is Peter Jackson was not involved in The Hobbit from the start. He did kind of come to save the day, but I do believe he was involved in some ways in a producing role. So I think he did have some say. I know Del Toro would have gone for a whole different vibe, but yeah. I mean, I would love to see the Del Toro version of The Hobbit. That's one I'm very sad we will never get to see. Anyway, okay. Oh, just answer this one first. What is the sword to your left? So my left is that one. So that is Strider's sword, if that is actually my left, or because I'm mirrored. No. Either way, Strider's sword, Gimli's axe, Gandalf's staff, Anduril, Sting, and Glamdring. There we go. I made that way more difficult than I needed to, didn't I? Oh no, this is going to be video 169. Is that a bad thing? It's a lot of videos. Oh, we have another new member. Phil Donald. Thank you very much. I won't go through the spiel again of what it all goes to. I'm sure you just heard it, but thank you very much indeed for helping us out. It's very much appreciated. Okay. Let's get on to the subject at hand, Shri. I've given it 10 minutes, rambled on enough, and yeah, let's get to what you're all here to talk about. Adar. Who is Adar? What are the possibilities, and who could he possibly be? Is he someone that we know, or is he someone completely brand new to the show? Well, I mean, we don't know anything for sure yet, so let's go through a couple of the theories. And the first one that we'll just get out of the way that people like to do is talk about him being Sauron. Now, I'm going to say straight off the bat, I do not believe he is Sauron, but I will get on to why they may be leading us that way in some form or another. So, obviously, if you want to talk about why he might be Sauron, he is obviously very evil. He's the leader of the orcs. Who could be more evil than someone who is in charge of that evil army? Could point towards Sauron. You had the Watch Warden of the Elves, the one who got killed in episode 2, 3, shot with the arrows, who did say Sauron went by many names, many names, and Adar could have been one of those. He's not saying he heard him called Adar ever, but he did have so many names that there was no way of knowing all the ones he went by. So there's no reason to think that why not? Why would some point or another did he not call himself Adar? It could have happened. And to be fair, the name Adar actually has a translation. For those of you who missed it in the show, it's a Sindarin word that actually means father. That's why a lot of the orcs call him father anyway. So he's basically the father of the orcs. And okay, Malkor originally created the orcs and corrupted the elves, but Sauron is said to have bred them and let them expand more. Maybe he could also be like a father figure to them. Not a very nice father figure, admittedly, but definitely a father figure. So it's a possibility. Like, Sauron could change his form at this stage. He hasn't lost that ability yet. He could change it to anything he wants. When in the writings, when he is Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, and he does end up on Numenor and stuff, he does take an elvish form. He convinces the elves he is one of them. Somehow one of them that they've never heard of before, but still one of them. So this elvish look he's having now with these ears and everything, this could be his way of doing it. I don't know. What do you think about it? Do you think it's a possibility with Sauron? Because the other thing we got to think of is Adar is looking for this sword, the broken black blade that Theo has. So why else would he be looking for it apart from the fact that it is his sword? He just wants it back. Maybe there's plenty of ideas of what this sword could truly be. We'll get into more detail of exactly that in a minute with the next idea, but we will start it with perhaps this is in fact the sword Gurthang. Now, Gurthang was the sword of Turin Turambar, the main character really from the Children of Húrin story. Very tragic story for those of you who don't know. But to kind of summarize how it ends, Turin commits suicide by killing himself with this sword, which is a black blade. Now, when he does it, he falls and the blade breaks beneath him. And if we just can bring up, there we go, I got a map a second. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so if you can see my mouse here, see this area of Tol Morwen up here. That one right there. That is a part of Beleriand that was not sunk like the rest of it. And this is where Turin was buried. So, looking at how they've already introduced many ships and stuff already so far on the show, they had people from the Southlands out in the sea where Galadriel somehow met them and met Halbrand and everything. So there is no reason to know, like there's no reason to go against, that sailors could have gone up this way and ended up here to pillage some graves, basically. They could have ended up finding the broken blade, taken it to Sauron, and Sauron could have tried to add his own evilness and put that into the sword. So, you never know. Maybe, sorry about that. Maybe that blade is actually Turin's, been taken to Sauron, and he's trying to do something more with it because that was a powerful sword. It is the sword that killed Glaurung the dragon. So you never know. Maybe that's just one idea. But the idea of the idea of where Gurthang and stuff came from in the first place, we'll get to in a moment. Let's just come back to this a second. So obviously we can see the map. Let's go back and let's get a picture of Sauron back on screen. So yes, the potential of him being Sauron is obviously there, but I don't think it will be the case. And this is one of the main reasons why I think why. So with Sauron, I feel like I don't think they've shown him yet. I don't think he's actually appeared in the show that we have seen. There have been many theories about who Sauron could be. Obviously, we have the idea that the Meteor Man could be Sauron. It could be Halbrand, or now it could be Adar, potentially. But I saw this said on this was put up on Twitter somewhere. Apologies, I cannot remember who it was who came up with this idea at first, but I think they are all decoys, and they're decoys for depending on where in the fan base you've come from. So if you are originally a book fan, Halbrand is the obvious, this is Sauron character. So they kind of just putting those hints in there, like talking over Farazon's shoulder, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's actually him. I think that's just the book decoy. Then you got the idea of the film decoy, the ones who've only watched the movies. Meteor Man is more that guy. The idea of the evilness, the fire, soaking it in, and the powers that he explodes. That's kind of, for the more movie fans, that's the one showing that perhaps Sauron is Meteor Man. But then you've got Adar, who I feel like is the red herring, or if that's the right term, for those who have no real knowledge of the background story of all of Tolkien and are just watching the show as their first real experience. Maybe they watched the films years and years ago, but don't really remember them. I think that is just the idea of trying to throw people off the scent a little. But before this, we did have a super chat, so let's quickly fly back to that. From Joey Foots, I hope. A made-up character. Halbrand is Sauron. It's just mystery box filler so the writers can make their own story and not have to properly adapt the lore. Potentially, it is a potential idea. There might be the thing that he is a completely made-up character. It's hard to really argue either way for that one just yet, because they are obviously throwing in hints that he is potentially someone else that we do know. Like I kind of just said, I feel the Halbrand is Sauron theory is almost too obvious, and I do hold to the idea that it's that obvious, it would come across to me as really bad writing, really bad setup with a really bad payoff to be so in your face that this is Sauron. Now, that might just be because if you know the lore, you know the story of Numenor, it's just obvious. But maybe they're taking it from the idea that, well, actually, they're appealing to a bunch of people who have never read the books, don't know the story of Numenor, so they won't know those things. They won't understand that Halbrand standing in a cell over the shoulder of Farazon, whispering in his ear, is a massive hint to him being Sauron. They might not get that, but they put it there for whatever reason. They've made it so the book people go, I already know it all, it's fine. I'm hoping that it's not as obvious as just that is the answer. I'm hoping it is, a way to throw you off the scent instead. But it could still be Halbrand. Now, there is also obviously the whole idea with mystery box this stuff with anything J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot is involved with. But they've claimed they know how the 5 seasons will end. They've claimed they've got the outline already sorted for every step of the show from beginning to end. There shouldn't be a mystery box filler with no solution coming from it. Everything they do should have a purpose because they know how it's going to end. Okay, they may not have written every single script word for word yet, but they do know where they're going. So putting all these hints in when they know the end point, there's got to be a purpose. And that purpose is either to obviously tell us or to throw us off the scent completely. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? But thank you for the comment and thank you for the super chat. It is very much appreciated. Okay, let's just catch up for a minute. Where were we with the chat? Okay, well, people are going on to talking about Halbrand being Sauron again. We did that. We covered that last week. So yeah, maybe. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Quick comment from Matthew Stewart. I think Sauron reveal will be him with Celebrimbor in the Forge Tower in the finale with the reveal of Anatar. That's kind of what I'm going for more. I definitely think that the end of season reveal will be Sauron and that Celebrimbor has had this idea and everything needs to be done by spring because of this mystery person. Who is going to be Anatar? Who will be Sauron? And we will find him out eventually. I just don't think we've seen him yet. But end of the day, we've been talking about Adar and potentially that is what he could be. We're just hoping not. So let's move on to theory number 2. And this one has popped up a lot already. Eol the Dark Elf. Is Adar Eol the Dark Elf? Now, Eol is a very, very interesting character. I've covered him in a video in the past, even, if I can speak properly. It's a lot harder to speak when you're on your own. You have to think a lot more. There's no silences. You can't have time to ponder. Got to keep going. But basically, Eol is the Dark Elf, not because he is necessarily evil. He's not particularly a nice elf, but he is kind of evil. And he is dark because his complexion, he's very pale. He has dark hair and he dislikes the sunlight. He likes being in the shade of the trees. Kind of sounds like Adar already, really. Pale face, dark hair, staying out of the sunlight. It is definitely an idea, but there is much more to go with this. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Sorry about that. Okay, so Eol is one of the Avari. And the Avaris are the ones who were the elves that to start with that never took the path to go to Valinor. They stayed in Middle-earth straight away. So they're kind of known as the unfaithful. That's why they're called the Avari. And he's also one of the Sindar elves. And the general thing is he hates these elves in general, and especially Eol, don't like the Noldor that much. They feel like they've basically come and taken their land in a way, come and taken their homes, taken their stuff off them. So this kind of gives Adar/Eol the reason why he might not like the elves so much. Now, it may seem a bit drastic to side with the orcs in this circumstance, going against his own race, but that explanation might come more in time. Because what would be interesting with it is the likes of many of the elves that we've already seen, your Gil-galad, your Elrons, your Celebrimbors, they are Noldor. So this kind of sets up some tension later on of why Adar would be going against them because he doesn't like them as a people as much within his own race. And I will carry on in just a moment because we have had a super chat from Callum Barnes. Loved your Stranger Theory stream and glad I've caught this one live. My feeling is Adar is an OG corrupted elf. Well, first, thank you very much for the super chat. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for enjoying the Stranger Theory stream. If I can get my words out. It's going to be a long one, guys. Bear with me. Yeah, Adar could be a OG corrupted elf. And that is one theory that I will get onto in a little bit. So I'm not ignoring it right this moment. But yeah, I set this up to go in an order. So I will come back to you. I promise. I'm not ignoring you. Okay, so quickly from Ranger of the North, Michael Varnon, James. Michael Varnon, Ranger of the North. Strange to see you alone. I know. It's weird, isn't it? It's like I'm used to being able to have pauses and have a drink and Jake can talk, but now I can't because it's just silence. And then it gets awkward. And we don't want it being awkward, do we? So no. But yes, glad of you to stop by. Nice to see you. But let's now carry on with Eol. So, because we're not done yet, there's a fair bit that may back up the idea of him being Eol. Although I will say I'm not sure it's going to be quite that place. So the conversation that is had between Eol and Arondir is talking about where Arondir came from. He talks about Beleriand. And Adar mentions about the mouth of the river. So this could well reference, if I can get my map up now quickly. There we go. Okay, so I got my Beleriand map. So the mouth of the river. The most famous one would be down here, the mouth of Sirion. I'm hoping you can see my mouse on the stream. Yes. So the mouth of Sirion down here by the Bay of Balar. So that is the most well-known one, but it doesn't mean it's the only one. Obviously, there's a Sirion over here, which is like the land of the seven rivers. It has many, so there's many rivers that come together here. Could be talking about any of these in some way. But what I need to point out first is Eol lived in his forest for a long time, which is this forest up here, Nan Alamoth. Okay? Now, if you look here, there's a river, comes down past Nan Alamoth, past Doriath, comes down and ends up down at the mouth of Sirion. Sirion, even. So, Eol could well be talking about this same river, how he walked the banks of that river that ended up down here. Obviously, this is all underwater by this point, so might not know for sure, but I'm sure it will come up again about where he did grow up. These could be the lands that he once lived in, and then the Noldor came and wiped them, pushed them all out. Don't know. It could be why he holds a grudge. But yes, so it could be talking about that, and it makes sense for his background why this river could end up being the mouth of the river that he talks about. So yeah, hopefully it's all okay. Helen saying, awkward pause. I do apologize if there are awkward pauses. I'm trying to make it happen. Doing my best. But yes, back to the man then, Eol. So there is more. The idea that Eol could also be Adar. So something else about Eol is he was a master at his art at making weapons. He was a great smither. He was great at smithing, whatever the right term of that is. And there was a point in the story when a meteor hits Middle-earth. One of the only times you ever hear of an actual meteor in the writings. And in this black material and appears of it, and Eol goes and forges a sword from this. This material ends up being named Galvorn, and it's supposed to be incredibly strong. The swords can cut through iron and everything without effort. It's a very strong metal. Okay, I will pause you there for one moment because we've had a super chat from James Cantella. If Arondir is Sylvan, why does he speak Quenya? To be honest, I don't know. It says he grew up in Beleriand. Maybe that doesn't mean... Or did he say he was born there? That's a good point. I'm not actually sure. I'm gonna see if we get more of an idea of that, and we will come back to it. Because right now, I'm not sure. But I will have a look and see what we can find out. Okay. Anyway. Where were we? And again, sorry, thank you for the super chat. Gotta say your thank yous. Anyway, so yes, Eol and his metal Galvorn. So this is this black metal, and in it he made two swords. One called Anglakel, one called Angirel. I apologize if I butcher the pronunciation of those. They're ones I'm never quite sure of. But Anglakel he gave to Thingol, who was the king of Doriath, for being able to live in that forest of Nan Almoth on the side and basically live in those lands. He gives the sword to him as a gift to say, you know, I'll be there. And then he keeps the other one for himself. So from that, the meteor being in the soil could be a hint of that kind of thing. The idea of just bringing that already out there, you know, it just kind of helps bring everything together. But Eol's sword is actually stolen by his son Maeglin, who I will get onto as a theory in a minute. But he steals it and takes it to Gondolin, which then Gondolin is obviously destroyed in the fall of Gondolin. So this sword could potentially end up being the Broken Blade at some point. It could have just been found somewhere and the ruins could have washed up on a shore, and we kind of go from there. But I don't know. That one might be taking it as a bit of a stretch. Because the other thing we have to also think of with this Galvorn is it is a black material. It is strong. And what is Adar wearing in the show? He's wearing very black armor. He could well have made it with Galvorn. He has said when he went out, he was always clad in Galvorn. So basically, he was always clad in black. Pale elf, dark hair, doesn't like the sun, clad in black. It looks like it could be Adar at this point, and I wouldn't be completely against the idea. However, we do have to consider a couple of other things, and that is, for one, Eol is presumed dead by this point, which is a pretty big thing. Like, they would have to break some stuff to bring him back. But in the same way, his life ends. Obviously, I probably should have said this at the start, but obviously this is spoilers for many things if you don't know the backstory to the first age and before. But Eol is thrown from a cliff in Gondolin, and obviously at that point presumed very dead. It's one of those, he's thrown off. There's no assumption that he could possibly survive this. So he really could not be alive in the second age. But because they don't say he's dead, they say he's thrown. Nobody necessarily buries his body. Nobody necessarily sees him dead. What if he survived? What if they pulled a Gandalf falling down to the depths of Khazad-dûm and brought him back? I think there's better ideas than this, but it could be a way that they do it. Obviously, the burns would have come in time. That's not really explained anywhere in Eol's story with fire. So this could well be something that happens in the middle of things. Maybe he gets captured by Sauron type, or Melkor even, gets burned, and that's just part of the torture that turns him into this person he is now, actually siding with the orcs. Because again, I don't necessarily think Eol would side with the orcs to fight with long term. I think it'd be more for a quick favor, yeah, but not long term. Yeah, I just can't see that he would actually like them enough to fully side with them. And also, if this is Eol, and then which means that he's also looking for his sword to get back. Maybe it was the one that turned into Gurthang, and he wants to get it back. The question would be is why would Sauron's mark actually be on it if this was the case? Did Sauron take it and try to corrupt it, try to instill it with evil, and maybe this helped corrupt Eol? I don't really know, but doesn't necessarily make the most amount of sense to me. And something I've seen now pop up in the comments, which I will address as well, which is another reason that goes against it, is they don't obviously have the rights to that character. They don't have the rights to him, I believe, in any of the writings that they have the rights to. However, we also know that they can get the rights for certain things when they've gone to the Tolkien estate and asked. So this might be one that they wanted to do, but I don't know. It's a bit more of a stretch for me when you really break down how Eol ended and the turn it would take for him to go to quite that extreme, maybe. I know he didn't like the other elves and stuff, but I don't know. But let me just fly back quickly. There was a comment from Council of the Rings. There we go. First, nice to see you here. But would it disappoint you if Adar is just an original character? I'm not saying it would disappoint me. I would be okay with it if they give him a good enough backstory. If there's just original with no real reason for what he's doing, then it's like any of the characters they introduce. If they're introduced and their purposes are founded, if there's reasons for why they're doing the things they do, if there's reasons for why they feel the way they feel, that's okay. And I can get on board with those things. Even if they're changes from the original lore, I can get on board if they're well written. If they're poorly written and just shoved in there because they're like, oh, we want an evil elf, let's just put a guy in there. Yeah, call him Adar. We'll figure it out. That's just not a good thing to me. So it wouldn't disappoint me so long as it's done correctly. And that's kind of the answer I have to give for a lot of the things with everything about the show is if they can do it well, I can get on board with changes and introductions of new things. I'm not that against it. I would love them to be more, faithful to the books and the lore, but I can get on board with it. So yeah. kind of a long-winded way of saying wouldn't be disappointed, but also, yeah. Anyway, so that kind of covers Eol. It could potentially be him. There's a lot of stuff that goes with the idea of him, but a lot of these things also then lead us on to our next possible idea, which is not Larian. This one. Eol has a son named Maeglin, and I think Maeglin is definitely a possibility. Get off the screen. Definitely a possibility of who this could be. Now, obviously, being Eol's son, the description of him is fairly similar. Pale, dark hair, grew up in the woods, basically, not necessarily in the sunlight as much. Those kind of things all fit the same way. And like I mentioned before, Maeglin actually steals Eol's sword from him before he runs off to Gondolin with his mother. So this sword could well have traveled with Maeglin, and that could be a reason why he wants it back later. This sword is a sign of, maybe a sign of his father's great work, but also a reminder that he didn't really like being around him. It's almost a thing of evil. It could well be something that he wants, and it's why he wants it back. Because, okay, and this is obviously a massive spoiler if you don't know anything about the story of Gondolin and you don't want to know kind of what happens. Yeah, obviously spoilers. But basically, Maeglin is the one to betray Gondolin. He's the one who gives up the location to Morgoth, who in the end destroys the city, sets it on fire, and it was basically Morgoth had gone to Maeglin and promised him things. Promised him Idril, who was the daughter of Turgon, and in fact Elrond and Elros's grandmother. Yeah. Basically promised Maeglin her and the city of Gondolin if he gave up the location. Obviously, Morgoth lied. Shocker. And he ends up burning the place to the ground. During the whole thing, Maeglin even tries to kill Eärendil. Fails, obviously, again. And in the end, fights Tuor. Now, in that fight, he loses. So after he's lost, he is then thrown down to his death. And it says he strikes the mountain 3 times on his way down and falls into flames. Okay, again, falling a long way. You kind of assume that he very much killed him here. But the thing, and I'm not saying this is a good idea, I'm really not. The thing is, we have to remember, Amazon aren't going to take all of these things and go, oh, we can't touch it. They could just say, this is a great plot twist. Because again, no dead body is written to be seen, no burial happens. Does he survive? Is he taken away? Not necessarily gets up on his feet and walks to safety. Is he dragged out of there by the orcs or trolls or whatever is in the city and taken back? And basically probably tortured at this point until he comes to their side. It would explain the burns if he fell in the fire. It would explain why half of his body is broken, why he's maybe got the gauntlet, is because he very much injured himself. It's something that should have killed him, and everyone would assume who reads it, assume he is very, very much dead. Nobody before the show would have ever said he survives that. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to do that for the show. Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest, but it's an idea that it could happen. Perhaps he ends up on the side of Sauron. Maybe he also then goes, searches for Turin's grave later, finds the sword, brings it back, Sauron, yeah, all the kind of stuff kind of works. Again, once again, I'm not going to say that that's a good idea. It's not. He should be dead. He falls into fire, the fall of Gondolin happens, there's no way he should be getting out of that. But they might bring it around. Now, that really sums it up for Maeglin, really. There's not really a lot else we can say about him. He's kind of, yeah, most of the arguments for Eol kind of go for him as well. Either way, they should both be dead, but it's an idea. So long, I hope they don't try and do something like a secret child of his or something, so it's actually Maeglin's son or something stupid like that. That, again, awful idea. But these are all theories. They might happen. They might not. Who knows? But let's go on to the next thing for now. There we go. So, this had popped up earlier on. Could Adar instead then be one of the original elves? So in fact, funnily enough, I'm literally working on a video right now for Monday about the original elves, the origin of them all and how they split up into all the clans that they have. And at the beginning, they awoke at, I hate saying this so much, Lake Cuivienen. Tongue twister, hate it. Hate trying to say these things. Anyway, so yes, in the beginning, there was 144 elves that end up being split up into the three main clans, which end up being the Minya, the Tatya, and the Nalya. Yeah, that is right. So could he potentially have actually been one of these? Because over time, these three clans went off and did their own things. And some of them ended up getting to Valinor, some of them stayed in Middle-earth, and some of them actually got caught, corrupted, and twisted by Morgoth. So while some of them were traveling, it said like a horseman would come and basically take them. And then he would take them back to Morgoth. He would twist them and turn them into these grotesque things that ended up becoming orcs. Could he, in fact, be one of these original elves from right back at the beginning, the thousands of years before, when they first awoke, when the first one was taken, and that might potentially be why the orcs would call him father? Is he almost like the first one, the one that they've all been bred from? Well, maybe not bred from, but you know what I mean. Kind of one that was there from the beginning, maybe one that was more willing to be on Malcolm's side, and so wasn't twisted directly himself and was instead put in charge. Because you got to admit, Malcolm twisted the owls as a way to insult what Eru did. And Adar doesn't exactly look like a beautiful elf anymore. He might have done enough to take away that essence of the beautiful thing he's doing with his creation of the first children of Iluvatar. But instead of turning him full orc, because obviously, like I said, they're not as powerful at that point. They become twisted and weakened in a way. He leaves a couple of them just to lead the armies as a more powerful, I guess, hero as such for them. That's why he has more pity on them. He's seen the people that they once were. He knew the elves that started these things and where these orcs have come from. It's like his friend's children. That's how his mind is working somehow. Who knows? Who knows? Did he help them twist the orcs? Was he a bigger part in all of this? Or was he just taken and has had his mind twisted? He has talked about these lies that would basically turn Middle-earth upside down. Everything that everyone believes is wrong. It's all lies. The truth would actually shock everyone. Is that because that's what Malcolm has told him? And the truth is always written by the winner. So Malcolm lost. So the truth is written by the elves. It would be very interesting to see. And realistically, if they go for that one of the original routes, I think that also takes him into the completely original character category. There was the odd named one, but I would be shocked if they did anything with that. I think they would take him as a completely original character at this point and really just do what they wanted with them. At this point, it gives them free reign to do what they want with Adar. And it could work. It could potentially work. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with my theories and ideas on just who is Adar. So to kind of summarize very, very quickly, let's go back to the... what have I done? There we go. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. First theory. Is Adar Sauron? Don't think so. Think it's a complete red herring just to... For some people who don't know an awful lot about the backstory of it all, don't know all the added stories to everything, it's just a way of going, look at this really evil guy leading the orcs. Hey, it's mentioned that his name could be Sauron. That's kind of enough. I don't think there's much more to it than that. So, yeah. And next we had Eol, the Dark Elf, the one who's known as the Dark Elf, the potentially really evil one. Many things fit: the look, the style, the attitude, perhaps, the wanting of a black blade that he may have potentially made himself. It could potentially work for Eol, apart from the fact he's dead. But you know, when does death really stop a character in a fantasy world? Who knows? Which really leads us on to the same idea of it potentially being his son Maeglin. It could well be him as well. Same kind of reasons, same theories. It all just kind of goes the same way. An interesting one. And then finally, like we just discussed, could he actually be an original character, which really means one of the original 144 elves that first awoke? Don't have a clue. Really don't. I know which ones I might prefer. I like the idea. Like maybe a strong word. I could get on board with the idea of Maeglin more than Eol himself. Maeglin is a very interesting one. He gave up Gondolin. He was tempted by a woman and a city and power to give up the greatest hidden realm. I don't think it's a million miles away to say that he would end up leading orcs for Sauron. Not saying, again, it's hard to put because I'm not necessarily saying these are ideas that I would have written myself. I would choose if I could go for any idea on this planet, I would pick it. But of the ones we've kind of gone through today, it's one that I could potentially get on board with if it is written well. Because again, they don't necessarily have any of the rights to this, which makes it so much harder. But if they did, and we actually managed to get flashbacks to the fall of Gondolin within this show, the prologue in episode 1 is debatably one of the peaks of this show so far. Not necessarily the best thing when the peak comes at the very, very beginning. Which also means if they could do something similar standard with the fall of Gondolin for Maeglin Adar's escape and witnessing everything, a deal with Morgoth, the betrayal, the fall, the fight with Tuor, falling into the fire, being dragged off or escaping, that would be pretty cool to see. Or maybe just me. Who knows? Who knows indeed. But that's kind of where I'm at with these ideas. So let's jump over to the chat now. Why don't we? What do you all think? What else? Sorry, I've got to. From Lord of the House of Stormcrows, please tell the haters that this channel existed before Amazon's fart in a bag. I don't really know what people have said for that, but people hating in the comments, they hate in the comments. It is what it is. Some people you cannot please. And I'm just happy to have a chat with the ones who are happy to have a discussion. So, but yeah, Amazon's fart in a bag. That's definitely one way to put it, I guess. Let's click on a random one then. So from B Vargas 78, I think he is a Maiar. They used to follow Morgoth and is unaware of Sauron's imminent comeback. That is definitely an interesting take. I suppose that is one that I definitely haven't covered. That he could be one of the other Maiar. We've said that potentially Meteor Man could be one of the blue wizards. And there is also technically, I guess, the theory that he could be one of the other Maiar completely. Didn't really think about it for Adar. That would definitely be an interesting choice. But because so many of them are unnamed, it's that awkward area of Amazon can kind of, if they get permission to, for those parts, they could basically do what they want because the story isn't written. I mean, that's why they chose the Second Age, because it's basically said that the records of the Second Age are vague at best, even by the elves. Like, there's not, within the world now, within the lore, there's so little really documented about it all that there's so many periods of hundreds of years that don't have anything said. So they could basically make up what they want to fill those gaps. It could be the same with potential characters. If they give them that kind of background, then yeah. Okay. Let's get back to the comments, shall we? So John asked, Eol, potentially, we've been over that one. If you've missed it, please feel free to go back. When the stream is done, I will add time codes and everything to the video so you can go through as and when you please at your own pace. God, no, the comments just slipped. Where will he go? Someone mentioned about Maglor just now. Okay, it's a new one. This wasn't the first one I saw, but let's bring up this one. Adar is Maglor, the second son of Feanor. It is an idea. One of the big things that kind of defends this is the the gauntlet, if one for a better word. I'm not sure if that's the right term. From when he grabbed the Silmaril, burnt himself, and that could be the protection from that, and it could explain all the burning. It could have had such a good effect on him. It's definitely an interesting idea. I don't really know. Again, it all comes down to what do they get the rights to? It's such a weird one that they've been so secretive with all of that, that it's just, again, I keep coming back to the same point, and I feel like I'm turning into a parrot, and it's a little bit annoying, so I do apologize if it comes across that way. But if they can write it well, I could get on board with it. It could be. I really hope we get to hear something more of his backstory, definitely in this season. If we get nothing at all, but that vague hint that we've already had for the rest of season 1, and we get nothing till later on, that's going to become a bit too much. I need something more. If it's going to be 2 years between seasons 1 and 2, like I've heard, then I want more. I'm very curious to see. So next, Matthew Stewart. They could actually make an interesting story out of the stranger being a blue wizard. The map he's trying to follow could be to the other wizard. Yes, Jake and I actually touched on this in a past stream. From day one, really, with Meteor Man, the stranger, I have been on board with him being one of the blue wizards. Their story is very much shrouded in more mystery. So I could definitely believe that they could be one of them. And I do like the idea of the map being the path, almost like to go, may have forgotten when he landed, his memory may have gone, but then he's gone, no, but I know I've got to get here. And it'd be the same with the other one. So they meet up. I could get on board with that. I very much could. And then they could go to the east, and that could explain why they would end up near the Southlands. The stories could work. Ooh. Jarkai. He's not Maglor, peoples. We got the leaks. I haven't seen no leaks, so I do not know anything. For me, this is all just theory. I do not have any idea. Cascadia Battle Circuit says Adar equals the Balrog, or a Balrog, I should say. I don't really think that one. I mean that also goes with the Maya possibility, but no, I don't think quite a Balrog. Maybe, I mean, the sword is supposed to give power. It makes them feel powerful. Injects them with something. If he did it with his elven blood, is he going to become something extra than just, yeah? Is that how you turn into a Balrog here? I don't know. I don't necessarily think, though. Okay, Jarkai says that does have leaks, but to be honest, I will say in the chat, please don't post any leaks, any spoilers for the show. A lot of people won't want to know them, and it would ruin a lot of people's experience. So I will just ask if any leaks that you may have, please keep to yourself at this time. It won't be fair on people if things get spoiled for those who really want to enjoy it. But the only question I would have is, how do you have leaks? Again, don't tell them. I'm just curious on the how. From Matt, this is a good point. Do not overlook the "not a god yet" sentence. It was clearly intentional. It's a weird one as well, because Tolkien was quite refrained on his use of the term god, and angels for that matter. He didn't necessarily like using them too much. And I don't really know off the top of my head what, to him, if he says God, is he thinking God is a Maya, one of the Maya? Or is God one of the Valar? Or is God just Eru? Saying a God means you would think there's multiple, which points more towards the Valar idea. Maya, if you're going to talk gods, they're more like angels. But they're not consistently, not very often at all, mentioned in those kind of wordings. So, it's curious to know what he really means by that. Is he thinking that he's going to become this all-powerful thing? He's going to gain new powers, really take over? Or is it just like a little bit of a power boost? Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? From Sasha. The stranger is going to be Gandalf. 100% fan service. 2 hobbits that resemble Frodo and Sam. I'm going to go over one of my points I brought up at the beginning of the stream, and I'll bring it up again now in case you weren't here. Which, again, I will say I cannot remember. I saw it on Twitter and I cannot remember and didn't make a note of stupidly where it originally came from. But it's the idea that the show are putting out red herrings basically for all the different fans. If you're a book fan, there's one. If you're a film fan, there's one. If you are a completely new fan, there is one as well. And they go like this. If you are a fan of the books, you know the stories, you know about the downfall of Numenor because you read all about it, then Halbrand is that red herring. He will whisper in the ear of Pharazôn. He will be in a cell. He will come be prophesied to be bringing the downfall of Numenor, like we're shown in the Palantir. All these things point to him being Sauron as the mischievous prisoner turned advisor to the king who will end up being Pharazôn. But that's just a red herring. And that's just to make all the people who read the book go, oh, he's whispering over his shoulder from a cell. That means he must be Sauron. The same way also can go for the Stranger now. And the Stranger is supposedly the film version of this red herring. If you've seen the films, you've got an idea of the power of Sauron, the meteor idea, the fire giving off no heat, just that kind of energy that explodes with him. That could potentially be the red herring that they're sending for any movie fan only, for any only movie fans. Maybe. Obviously, it's a little bit harder when it does feel like they are pointing more towards this Gandalf idea. But then, obviously, the other one now that we've kind of covered today as well is Adar being the Sauron theory for the newbies, the ones who don't really know anything at all, maybe watched the film once or twice but don't really remember it. And he's just so obviously evil. They hint his name is Sauron in the first place, so maybe it was. Who knows? Which makes me think that the idea that it's so obvious as well that Meteor Man the Stranger is Gandalf feels a bit too obvious again. Oh, someone has just pulled up at the gym. I will leave them to it. Let's just ignore them for now. But anyway, let's catch up. I do apologize about that. There is distractions because I'm the only one here today. I can't really see what's going on. So, yeah. Where were we then? So basically, yes, are they trying to trick us all? Why the effort? I think it is just that. I think the effort is just to trick everyone. I think the effort is to put people off the scent. If they've got any sense, they don't want people to guess from day one. They don't want people to just see one little hint and it automatically be very obvious what the answer is. They want you to think about it. They want people like us to make these theory videos. They want people to talk about the show. If everything was that plain and clear from day one, then what's the point in watching? And it's one of the things that I always was torn with the if they should be very, very precise with the lore and accurate to every word that's written, or if they should have some creative freedom. Because if they have no creative freedom, we can predict everything. Now, for people who love the lore and want to see it adapted, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for people who want to experience this as something new, something that they cannot just easily go, oh, well, next week this is happening, the week after this is happening, the week after that's happening, and these are the dots that are going to connect them all. That's not necessarily an enjoyable TV show. It's not an enjoyable experience because it's obvious what's going to happen. There's no payoff to anything because you know it all. It's the same way that sometimes you can't enjoy when you get those shows and those films that have really great twists. Like the obvious one is like I See Dead People, something like that, or Shutter Island, things like that. They don't always hit the same way the second time because you know what's coming. Yeah, sometimes you can watch it and go, oh, no, it's that hint now, no, it's that hint now. But in the end, they lose their effect because you know it. So, yes, I do think they're trying to trick us all because they need us to enjoy the experience. They need us to come along on the journey and stay interested. If we do predict it all, why stay engaged? Why not just kind of read a quick summary and go, oh, okay, yeah, that one happened this week, and go with that? It's again, I'm not necessarily saying it's the right thing. I would have loved to have seen everything accurate, but at the same time, from a creative point of view, I can understand why they might want to alter things slightly. From Otaku Senpai. Yes, Maeglin's falling into the flames might explain Adar's scars. That is very much one of the big things that could hint towards it. He's obviously been burnt, obviously has some history with fire. It could well hint towards that character. I mean, many characters can have an experience with fire and be burnt, especially when you are spending your time with orcs. But yeah, it definitely helps go towards that Maeglin possibility. AlloTR Nerd 3791. Bad writing or red herrings? That is the worry. Very much the worry. Obviously, I would hope it is red herrings. I hope it is all on purpose. I hope they've planned this out so well to go, oh, we are really going to make them so confident that they figured this all out. And then we're going to pull the carpet from under their feet, pull the rug from under their feet, sorry. And everyone's going to be like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. What a twist. That's what we hope. 4 episodes in, I'm not necessarily saying they are filling me with confidence that that is the case and that they are capable of that. But we'll have to see how it goes. Oh, okay, let's catch up with comments. I've fallen way behind, so apologies if I have now skipped over one of yours. It reminded me of Thranduil's. Oh, the scar. Yeah, those scars are obviously not quite the same, not quite as dramatic as the Hobbit. But yeah, it could be an idea that the fire could end up being an elf that fought a dragon at some point, and that's where those scars are coming from. They got plenty of possibilities of backstory that they could invent for this if it is a brand new character. And again, I love the idea of seeing flashbacks. They've already shown us a dragon in the past. Episode 1, they've shown a dragon take down an eagle. There is no reason we might not see a dragon attack him in a flashback. I just hope we get some flashbacks for his story. I just don't want exposition. I just don't want it all being talked to us. I want to see. Show, don't tell. First rule of filmmaking. Show, don't tell. Show me his backstory. Don't just tell me. And I would love that. Ranger of the North. I haven't. Oh, you haven't watched the Halbrand theory video yet. That's okay. We all know theory about Halbrand will become Witch King, but do you think that he could eventually become K'mul? Well, I would hate to spoil the video for you, so you'll have to go and watch the Halbrand one. But in general, I don't think he would, for reasons that I explain more in the video. I think he will have more to do with Rovanian and that area of Middle-earth later on. And K'mul is very much known as K'mul the Easterling. So I don't think that he would end up being that one. If he is going to become one of the Nazgul, most likely the Witch King, I don't think he would be one of the unnamed ones. Well, it could be the one of the unnamed ones, I guess. Witch King is more likely to be from Numenor. But who knows? But yes, break it down way better in that video when we went over that. And yeah, not quite. I'm very sorry for this. Oh, couldn't hold that in. Sorry about that. Lady Fantastic. I think an animated Silmarillion would be sweet. It would, wouldn't it? I would absolutely kill for a animated anything from Tolkien's Middle-earth, especially First Age and before. I think that stuff lends itself so well to animation. I think animation gives you so much more freedom. I think there's many things that just don't translate well to live action from a book that will translate so much better into animation. The otherworldly feeling of an elf would translate better in animation, I think. I definitely think it's a possibility. Also, I apologize if you can hear some banging or noises from outside. People using the gym. I don't think it's picking up, but if there's odd noises, it's not just in your head. Okay. Where are we? Okay, that's just skipped through loads of comments, so I've completely lost where I am. Let's go for this. Oh, I'll get there in the end. B. Vargas 78 says, I think Theo will become K'mul. Sauron will make Theo a king of the Easterlings, and he will then take on an Easterling name, K'mul. Definitely an interesting idea. I think Theo could well be being set up for a Nazgul fall. He could be someone who's set up for potential great things, but he's already shown he could be corruptible. He could go the way of evil. He could be twisted in one way or another with the lure of power. He already can't give up this sword. And if this sword has made him feel powerful, like the way he's used it, the idea of more of that could be very tempting to him. So I could very much see that being the case somehow. Should we change this picture? What else we got? There we go. Let's have Adar doing some thinking. I'm going to pretend he's talking to me. Fantasy Sci 5. Love that name. You're doing great by yourself. Thank you very much. It is very unusual to be doing this by myself, but also not as bad as I thought it might be. You guys make it so much easier with your wonderful comments, giving me something to interact with. If nobody was speaking, it would be so much more awkward. I mean, I could try and talk, but answering you guys after going through the theories is definitely a more fun way to go. Nazim Kadi. Meteor Man wrote G letter in Elvish lang on the wood. He is Gandalf. Yeah, I have seen that. He is supposed to have written the Gandalf's rune, the same one that he put on the door of Bag End to tell Thorin's company that he was there. He wrote that on the wood. And yeah, I think it could be a rune that looks like it. I'm not necessarily sure it is the exact one. It's a tough one though, because I think it's another one of those red herrings where they're trying to do something which makes people think it's going to be him. I think that is very much a movie red herring, sorry, of going, if you've seen the movies, you've seen those things, you recognize this symbol, then that means he must be Gandalf. But the question is, why couldn't someone else write that letter? They could. I don't know why. I don't know what it would stand for. I'm not saying I've got a particularly good idea, but it's a rune that can be written by anyone. It doesn't have to be Gandalf. It's just the trying to figure out what it would mean is something a little more complicated, I guess. So yeah, I still don't think he's Gandalf. I still think it's a blue wizard. But yeah, thank you for your comment. Cats and dogs D. Would be awesome to see what happens to Arnor. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, that's all Second Age, the foundation of Gondor and Arnor, and up to the War of the Last Alliance and everything like that. I really hope we do get to see it, and it'll be very interesting to see how they go about having the two separate locations, and if they're going to make them look different. Like, one of my favorite things so far on the show is being able to see all these places that I pictured in my head but never seen on screen. Yes, we've had lots of great pieces of art done by so many great people over the years and stuff, and you kind of, most people have a general pretty safe idea of what these things look like to them, but to actually get to see it on screen and the scale of it and just how magnificent it all looks, I would love to also get to see that with the likes of early Gondor and Arnor, when it's just first out of Numenor, of that they're trying to get as close as possible, probably. Yeah. I don't know. Sorry about that. My phone is just going nuts and I'm just trying to tell it to be quiet. Okay. There we go. Sorry, I'm very, very sorry about that. It was absolutely ridiculous then. I've seen this pop up a couple of times. Orodreth makes sense as a possibility for Adar even. I mean, potentially. There's so many potential ways you could make work. And there's another one for Council of the Rings, same kind of thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts about him being Orodreth. There seems to be a lot of things that could support that theory. Can't list them all in one comment, though. I'm not going to lie. This is one I haven't really thought about yet, so I'm not too sure. Give me a minute to think, and I will come back to you on that. Can he be the anti-Tom Bombadil? there is Tom Bombadil. I mean, I would be very curious if they could ever make Tom Bombadil work in this show, but I don't think we'll see him or anything anti him. That is basically, in a way, a god, I say, in his own land. I think we'll see Entwives. We all want it. We've already seen Entwives. We had a very quick glance at them when the meteor was flying over. So yeah, I definitely think we'll see more. I think the Harfoot storyline is going to go down that route, and there's going to be some relationship with them. There we go. Council of the Rings. Orodreth is Adar. I keep saying Adar. Get on my own nerves with that one. As Adar number 1. The symbol on Adar's armor is also worn by Gil-galad and Alvond. Fair, but the question is that his own, or is that something that's stolen? The thing with orcs, we've seen that they take the armor of the things they kill. We saw that there was a few orcs wearing the same armor of Arondir and stuff. So does that mean necessarily it's his, or is it something that he's picked up off the dead body of someone? Number 2. Council of the Rings, thank you very much. Number 2, his face is burned. Could be the fires of Glowron. Yes, Dragonfire, like we kind of mentioned with the idea of hinting towards how Thranduil looked in The Hobbit, is the burnt effect of that is gives you a good hint of this as well. It gives you that idea that they might trying to link the two, and kind of hint towards that actually being Dragonfire, which could be an interesting way to go about it. Although I also feel like if you got caught with Dragonfire, you would look a lot worse than that. I know elves do tend to try and heal themselves and stuff, but yeah, I feel like you would look a lot worse than that. Number 3. His name is Adar, father. Maybe a vague hint to him being the father of Gil-galad. Yeah, fair. I mean, Gil-galad's whole family is a bit of a vague one. It kind of depends on where you go to find out his true story. That one, yeah. Oh, there's number 4 as well. Let's get to that one. Gil-galad seems to hide something. Maybe he wants Galadriel to stop the hunt. The thing is, okay, yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but also at the same time, I don't see why Gil-galad would let the evil like that rise again. Gil-galad is, again, we can never rule out that they're going to destroy a character of what they were, of what we know them as. But Gil-galad would never let that happen. Gil-galad would definitely prevent the orcs rising up, even if it was his father that in the distant lands. I just don't see how he would ignore that with the effects. They've seen what Morgoth and an army of orcs can do. I get your point. Not quite with that one just yet. But there's a number 5 as well for everyone else. Orodreth has reason to hate men because of Turin. He lost his daughter and kingdom after all. That is very true. And I've seen it with an argument or two with a couple of them, saying about how a bit of hatred towards someone can make you turn. I do find it very hard to believe that someone doing something like that could make you want to turn against everyone and side with orcs, because that's the evil of evil. There's a difference between like a civil war and rising up from the inside and trying to take over a kingdom of your own people already. Obviously, in this case, trying to take out men, but I don't know if he would ever see orcs as the answer to that. Again, not saying it couldn't happen. I'm not ruling that out by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely a theory that, argued enough, could make sense. I just find it hard to understand that motive, if that makes sense. I really do like the idea. Thank you very much for going through that with me, because that was Yeah. It's a very interesting thought for Orodreth. But I would probably put him in the same category as Eol and Maeglin of I just don't think they will. I almost don't think they would be that clever to make it work. They might attempt to make it work. Don't know if they'd be clever enough to pull it off. This is a good point by Matthew Stewart, though, is I'm already not a great fan of the show's Gil-galad, so I wouldn't dig that at all. That is a good point. Gil-galad is not the High King Gil-galad that I was hoping to see yet. He feels a bit weak, a bit not stupid, but little things like having Elrond write his speech. I get it's a good moment for Elrond. It shows that he's actually so great and he's already really good with words. He's already becoming a politician as they're making him. But it just takes away from Gil-galad. Gil-galad should not need someone to write his speeches for him. He should be able to bring out a speech 5 hours long with no effort at all. He is a great elf and he shouldn't need that kind of help. And the way that he kind of looks at it, and okay, yeah, there's the whole I can now send people to Valinor thing, but that's not necessarily the character. It's the idea that he tries to slyly send Galadriel away. All these things are just not what I would have seen Gil-galad as a character in my head. And yeah, maybe that kind of points to it going towards that idea then, is that this isn't the Gil-galad that I truly believe he should be. So maybe he would ignore it for that kind of idea. I don't know. It is interesting, but yeah, I do find it a real shame. Gil-galad is one of these characters that I was so excited to be seeing. Same as like Elendil. Elendil is, for me, as a character, nailed it so far. I love the actor, love the character, love it all. Been amazing when he's been on screen. Gil-galad I held in that high expectation as well, and it's just not done it for me yet. Sad, really. Sad. Okay, where were we then? Yeah, makes sense. Well, thank you very much for bringing up the comments. It's a very good point and one that I hadn't actually planned on covering. So yeah, I hadn't even thought about it. So thank you very much for joining the video, bringing it up in the chat. Great little idea. I love these kind of discussions. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you've got someone verbally responding than waiting for comments, but I like it. I hope everyone has found this stream okay. I won't be going too much longer. Let's I'll be going for potentially another 10-ish minutes, maybe. It'll be about 4 o'clock my time then, and that'll probably be about the time I'll have to go. So yeah, we won't be too much longer. So if you do have questions, because if you do have questions, get them in now before I go. But Council of the Rings has got to go. See you around. Again, thank you very much for tuning in and all your comments. Cats and dogs tea, unless Gil-galad isn't Gil-galad. If they dare do this, ooh, he's sneakily someone else in disguise thing. Oh my god. There's a few things that could get me to stop watching the show. If they try to pull something as stupid as like, oh, it's Sauron in disguise, pretend to be Gil-galad, that's one. That's a no more Rings of Power moment for me. I'd be curious though, actually, from all of you, if you're in the comments now, let me know as quick as you can. What would be your that's just too much and I'm done with this show moment? If they did something, if they did this thing, I'm gone. No matter what. Not watching anymore. Not giving it a chance. What would be that moment for you? I'm curious. I'm trying to think what my biggest one would be. Not sure yet. Yeah, Mr. C, they destroyed Gil-galad and the instant he stepped on screen. I know. I'm hoping this is awesome. I'm hoping this is one of these moments where they have planned it out so that it's all going to be some great plan by Gil-galad. Everything that's happened so far has been for this greater purpose that he can see in the future and that he's predicted and he's working his way around. And that it shows that he's actually the person that he should be. That he's not just reactionary, he plans things out. So I'm hoping. I'm not really sure. But okay, yes. So we got last 10 minutes. Let's just check this back on this one. Get through some more comments. and then I will say goodbye for today. Lady Fantastic has to head to work in a few. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope it has been okay. I hope you have enjoyed it. And I will see you all soon. Where are we going now? Let's catch up to the most recent comments because I'm there we go. Okay, where are we at? Adar Adar in Hebrew is a boy's name, which means the great and noble. Well, I wonder if that would be very interesting if there's a hint, obviously, in some other translation of who he might be. Maybe that is a hint that he was once a great and noble elf. One that we may know. Who knows? Great and noble wouldn't go with Eol or Maeglin, though, would it? Might go more with someone like Orodreth. Very interesting. Ranger of the North, what is your opinion for now at least? The weakest and baddest part of the series. Honestly, for Elrond and Celebrimbor just don't fit in for me. For me, bad casting. Interesting. For me, I actually have to admit, although Elrond isn't quite the character Elrond that I expected, I love the character in the show so far. I really am enjoying it when he's on screen. Okay, yes. This is one of the instances I can say where when they change something, if they do it well, I can get on board with it. I won't riot because of it. And I think Elrond is one. I've been very impressed with the way he's been. He's been one of the best, brightest parts of the show. Celebrimbor, I'm still on the fence about. He feels odd to me, not quite what I would have expected from Celebrimbor, but I do also like the actor. There is something about him on screen at the moment that I haven't quite made up my mind. He needs more screen time for me to make a full judgment on him. So yeah. Question from Fantasy Sci-Fi. I don't remember. Did Eorendil tell Celebrimbor that Elrond will be a big part of his future in the actual canon? I may be wrong. Maybe. Could well be. But I don't believe so. I think this is very much I think a lot of Celebrimbor stuff they are just making up. It was like the whole story of Malkor and the Tia and the Silmarils. I just think they're making stuff up to try and link them together more. I don't believe, and please, anyone, if you do actually know if I am wrong, correct me and let me know where. I don't believe that is ever said now. I am so sorry. I'm not used to having to talk this much. An hour, 20 minutes of just me talking without a real break. Definitely not used to that. Anyway, let's catch up again. Where were we? From Craig Schumacher. Schumacher? Yeah, I hope. Sorry. Adar is Anavari from Kuvianian. Oh. Happened earlier in the stream and it does again. That word is such a tongue twister for me. It's so important. Where the elves awaken, the lake. But then yes, anyway, sorry, that is not the point. Oh dear. Anyway, so yeah. Adar is an Avari captured by Malkor and is the original father of the Orc race. He is merciful towards them because they are his descendants. He's trying to do the best for them. Yes, I think this is one of the theories that could well be one of the strongest. One that we did go over earlier in the video. So yeah, if you want to hear a bit more of my thoughts on that, I will not just repeat them all again now, but I will put time codes once the video is up and go through them at the end. But yeah, I do think that is very much a strong possibility. He could well be one of them, and it gives them a bit more freedom with the character without necessarily breaking anything in the lore. Jimmy Taylor. Galadriel and Theo are definitely the worst written characters so far, in my opinion. And I really cannot disagree with your opinion. For one, it is your opinion, so you're allowed it anyway. Not saying anything like that. But I very much agree. I cannot stand Theo at this time. I don't know why. I can't even put my finger on it why. When he's on screen, not a fan one bit. But I would probably also say the same with Galadriel. See, I love Morvith Clark, and I think she could be a great Galadriel. And she is a good actor. But the lines she is being fed and the actions she is being given are not good. I was going to say awful. Maybe a lot of people would agree with awful. But, and this is actually, I'm going to bring this up now because it's popped up because let me just show you next one. I really hope we see some growth with Galadriel. Now, for any of you out there who are fans of Star Wars, especially of the Clone Wars cartoon, let me cast your mind back because someone said this, and I very much hope this is the case. When Clone Wars started, Ahsoka Tano was one of the most hated characters. They were thinking, you brought out this cartoon, you've added this very annoying, frustrating, aggravating little girl who is acting like a little kid all the time. What are you doing? It is awful. I can't watch the show with this person in. However, look, and you fast forward now to today, Ahsoka Tano is one of many people's most favorite characters in the entire Star Wars universe. She becomes an amazing character by the end of the Clone Wars itself, and then she is taken on to more outside of it. In case she was original for that show, there wasn't a character she was being based off, but apologies, I feel like I need to sneeze. Yeah, sorry. I was saying, yeah, I know Ahsoka was a brand new character and everything, but it shows that they will develop characters over time anyway. They obviously, Galadriel is not the Galadriel that we know from the Lord of the Rings at this point. So in essence, she is a new character. I know it's Galadriel, and she's labeled as Galadriel. She has some of the history of Galadriel, but she is basically a new way of writing Galadriel for the show. So they can easily adapt her over time. I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping Galadriel turns out to be a really appealing character and one of the ones you want on screen more by the time we get to season 5. Don't know what her role will be at that time, to be perfectly honest, but I do hope that that does become more of the case. It can happen. They've shown they've done it in other things. I'm just hoping it's the same. Now, I know completely different companies, completely different universes, but it was a good example of a character that was a massive put off to the show. It made me not even want to watch the show to a character that I absolutely love now. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We might get there. We might. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway. From Rogue 198. Right now, comparing Rings of Power Galadriel and Snips is interesting. Snips is Ahsoka Tano, by the way, for people who do not know. Because we know where Galadriel ends up, and we didn't know where Snips was, except we all expected her to die. But point well taken. Thank you very much. I didn't actually select that as a point to prove my point. But yeah, no, it's one of those. I'm not saying it means that she will become good. That means that because she's yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just hoping. That's my hope. I'm clinging to the hope that they did it with Ahsoka. They can do it with Galadriel. Meanwhile, Jar Jar Binks is doing heroin in a back alley somewhere. Who would have thought a video on who is Adar would get to Jar Jar Binks doing heroin down a back alley somewhere? We've definitely come a long way. Sorry, more people turning up, so I will have to go in a minute. But let's just answer a quick couple more in the last minute and a bit. So, how will they give Galadriel a ring of power? I don't know. Ask her the question at some point. When going to be the case when they're going to hide it, the most powerful people to oppose the potentially evil Sauron. If they do even judge that he's evil at that point, I don't know. But it'll be interesting. She'll have to be back over with the elves or close that way at some point. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. For Marvis, he could be Elured or Elurin. Deal's sons were never found, even though Mithros sought after them. Very good point. There's another potential. There are many elves that Adar could potentially be if you want to kind of take never being found again and hidden and falling, but not seeing dead bodies as they could still be alive. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm loving the theory. That's the one thing I will give this show in the way that they've not done it word for word accurate is it gives us the chance to have these conversations. It gives us the chance to have a theory. It gives us the chance to make up some paths in our own head. It gives us something to talk about. And I like it. But yes, from George, Galadriel should be married to Celeborn at this point in the Second Age. But sadly, because of time compression, I don't think there is an at this point at all from the Second Age timeline that we know. Nothing is at this time because they've completely changed all time and all order, and just generally, they've just changed everything. It's not the Middle-earth we expected. It's not the Middle-earth we may wanted, but hopefully it becomes the Middle-earth that we deserve. Hopefully. Hopefully. Why would a Dark Elf say they're not a god yet? That is a very good question. The whole god line, I'm unsure of at this point. The whole idea of talking about a god in Middle-earth is a bit iffy. As one of those, I'm very curious to see where they go with it. Don't think we'll get anything with it necessarily this week. I think it'll be later on. Maybe more season finale. But yeah. Bring Celeborn. Yes. Where is Celeborn? For I much desire to speak with him. I really do. Anyway, okay. Yes. Yeah, we're basically going along the same points now. Galadriel is all over the place. We don't know what's going on. The storyline is all over the place. The timeline is all over the place. In fact, we all seem to be a bit all over the place. But with that, let's have one more comment from B. Vargas 78. In Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, there is a scene where Narsil is reforged. There are elven smiths working on it. They are strong and energetic. I imagined Celebrimbor to look like that. Yes, I feel like many of us pictured a much more physically imposing Celebrimbor. I very much pictured, I feel like the way the Shadow Of's games portrayed him was pretty much spot on. That's what I had in my head. And that's kind of what I wanted. So, yeah. Yeah. They missed a trick. They very much missed a trick. But you never know. You never know. They might pull it back. Can you tell I'm losing the faith a little bit now? Just a bit. But Mick says Aaron and Jones' chemistry is holding the show together for me. Yes, very, very much so. When they're on screen, I am full 100% in the zone. Like that. There. But when other certain characters come on, I'm just kind of waiting for them to come back. But okay, yes, I'm going to leave that here now. Been live for an hour and a half on my own. And in fact, I will most potentially, no, I don't know. I might be on my own for the after party for the show because Jake is still away. We're going to try and get him tuned in through a laptop from where he is. We will just have to see how connection-wise that works. So hopefully you will see us both. Very much, I hope so. We'll be doing the same as we did last week. 8 o'clock in the morning for UK time. Whatever that time difference works for you, I do not know. Yeah. Hopefully we will see you all then. Hopefully we'll both see you all then. If not, at the very least, I will see you all then. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you enjoy episode 5 when that comes out. And you join me for the chat in the morning for that. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you everyone who's tuned in. Thank you everyone who's left a comment. Thank you everyone who's just helped me get through this on my own. I really much appreciate it. Okay. That's it. That's enough goodbyes. I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.